Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline Studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Well, we're continuing on with our feral cat program, and we had episode number 8 where I did a write-up of the background to the feral cat care, and here's Doofus. This was one of Josh's cats, and he was a feral cat that was adopted, and many of them are. And he's, I don't know why they called him Doofus. Josh, can you tell me why?
Because he was, accident prone. He got caught in the wall one time and caught himself in a live trap, things like that.
Oh, poor Doofus. Anyway, he was very pretty in spite of being not too clever. So we'll be working with this image, and I've cut some stencils. So this is our first stencil, and then it goes from there. This is the negative stencil of the cat. And notice I've put an arrow so that we always get the position right. I sort of forget, and I'm just sort of working away. And here's the cat itself. So that's what we're going to be working with. Now I want to talk a little bit about our giveaway. This is one of the feral cats that was captured and fixed and cared for by the De-Feral program here locally, and I'm sure in your area you have a similar program, so be sure and support those kind of programs. Anyway, this is our giveaway. It's going to be posted on my site Shoreline Studio on Facebook, and probably on Instagram as well. And I think to get your name in there, you have to like my postings, so that way I'll get your name, and then we'll do a draw, and somebody will get this beautiful print. Now I have my drawing paper all ready to go. I've done the registration. We have our 8.5 by 11 plate. We have our barren to roll out, and our rollers, a bunch of paints. We have our Amsterdam Standard Series, and I finally found out where they put the name. They've got all sorts of type on here, and you can never find the actual name of it. So it's on the left-hand corner, so I'll remember that now. Anyway, so we have a bunch of paints. And then, of course, my golden opens, which are absolutely, essential for this kind of work. So we're ready to start. So our first layer, of course, is going to be just our base layer, and I'm going to print the whole plate. And then we're going to keep it light, so we're working from light to dark. And a lot of this probably is going to be working with, our ghost prints, because sometimes stuff that's left on the plate is actually far more interesting when you pull a ghost print than the actual print. So we'll see how it goes, hoping the prints will turn out as well. And just... Now you can run a couple of colors if you want, and we might just do that. Maybe this is really pretty. Now, left-hand side, remember? And there's nothing there. Oh dear. Okay, now where would they have it on here? It's the same brand name. Okay, we're going to have to write these people and tell them, please let me know where the name is. Okay, but it is good paint, so can't complain. The names are just incidental anyway.
Kind of orangey.
And orangey, yes. So we're having a nice space and just spraying off. This paint dries quite quickly, which in this case is to our benefit, because it leaves these lovely little incidentals behind, the grungy bits, as we like to call them. And so a lot of these prints are actually going to be grunge prints. And here's our first layer. And it doesn't matter about, there's a little bit of a fuzzle in there, but not a problem. Actually, I can probably run that. Okay, so that's our base layer. Okay, so let's run blue. And you don't have to really do the outside edges because that's going to be blocked off anyway. Now we can put this on there. Okay, again looking for the arrow. Okay, and placing carefully. And printing this layer. Now registration is important but not critical because you can probably work with a layer if it doesn't quite work out for you, and that might just add more interest, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay, so now we have our second layer. Now we go to the negative stencil, and this is again the arrow. Line up. And we can take this one off because it goes all the way across anyway. And now what I'll do with this is I'm just going to wipe because I want to get some good color. Okay, so now I'm just going to remove this for a moment, and we're going to maybe go back to the orange a little bit and maybe intensify that with a little bit of alizarin crimson. Who says you can't have a red cat? It's Valentine's Day. Okay. Now, again, making sure. See how easy it is to get away? So be sure and have that arrow on there. All right, so lining up. Now it's not going to be that color red with that blue, right? So you'll see how they combine. It just makes it a bit darker. And I wanted it dark because what's going to show up next are just the details. So there's our cat. So let's put some black on here. At some point you have to stop and clean all your little stencils, but right now it's okay. And for our final, So place this carefully. Otherwise you end up with a halo. And then I think we need to put one of the outline areas back. Okay, looking for my arrow, there it is. And placing. Now this should give us our details. And not bad details, so there you go. A nice clear print for the most part. Everything is registering pretty well. It's all good. Now, remove your stencil very carefully. So now comes ghost print. This is the exciting part. Now you're not going to get a lot on because that paint dries really fast, but what we do get could be quite interesting. And the nice thing about this oriental paper, it picks up a fair amount of detail. So we actually have a nice black cat with white eyes, and I think that is very cool. And all we need now, I think, is just to replace the cat stencil. And then just sort of work our way backwards. I'm going to ink the plate. And we'll work right out. I've got to wash this anyway, so it doesn't matter if the cat stencil's on there. I'm just gonna, and there's still a blend of black, so this will. And we're gonna add some cool stuff here. That's burnt umber, by the way. It just goes nicely with these colors. It doesn't go too green, that's what's nice about it. Okay, so let's print that. And outlines are still really sharp anyway, so it's good. And now, I'm going to take it off this time, but we need to put the other one back. Now it's starting to get interesting. Okay, let's try some of this. Working backwards, we're going to put our frame on again, and then we're blocking out the frame so that we keep that beautiful blue color in the back as the frame. And we're going to put the cat back. And I want to keep the blue of the eyes, so what we'll do is we'll just wipe that out so it doesn't print. And the rest can stay. Okay. Now you sort of have to think in reverse, well, for everything, because the prints always come out in reverse. But this whole process, the way to get that border is to actually block it out, right? Now we have a bluish black cat with blue eyes and a lighter background and our border. So there you are. And basically grunge, right? So yes, now we're deciding on what on earth color are we going to put on top of this. This is going to be a ghost print. So we have our paper ready. And we don't need to register it because it is just one off. I think our taupe should be fine. And now, warm gray it's called, okay. Quite a lovely color. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of light, so a little bit of white. Just to bring it up. I want the cat eyes to show up. We'll see what happens. Remember we took out the cat eyes and it would be just the weight of the paper. And that might be a bit boring. And you know me, I never do boring. So what you want is you just want to activate that layer, but you don't want it to dry. So that's why this Oriental paper is so good. It seems to pick up everything. Deli paper works as well for this kind of thing. So just let it sit a moment and stew a little bit. Now, if we're lucky, most of this will peel off. Sometimes, and this is where the grungy bit comes in, it doesn't quite take everything, but, and then of course you could probably run another layer if you want. But it really is quite spectacular. Now we're not getting our border, so we can work with that. But for a ghost print, I mean, look at how interesting it is. So what we'll do is we'll block out the cat so that we don't have, and wipe out the eyes again. And we're just going to put another layer on to get this part done, and we'll just use blue. Looks like he's got a little collar on, so quite interesting. So we hadn't intended to do 2 layers, but there you go. You have to do what you have to do. It's all experimental. That's what's so much fun about printmaking and monotype printmaking to begin with. I'm just going to maybe put some of the gray here down below. Again, you're activating this layer. And we'll roll it out. And we're going to put the cat in place. This helps me put the cat in place. And hopefully if I can see where it goes. Oh, we're going to wipe out the eyes, aren't we? Okay. Well, this might be a total disaster and the cat might be totally off registration, but fingers crossed. this is the joy of it. Okay, lining everything up. The cat will probably be slightly off, but I think it's all good. It gives us the outline of where the border is, even though we don't have a very good border yet. There we go. Ooh, and our cat did not go off registration. Isn't that awesome? I think we're going to leave it. We don't really need the border at all. Everything else printed so well. I'm not pushing my luck. Our eyes stayed white. So this is what, you know, those cutting machines are for. You just crop. And you can always collage another border on there. Collaging is good too. So there you go. Okay, onward to the next one. Okay, we're at the painterly print now. I've cleaned everything up. I've registered my paper. And we have the cat underneath. We'll be using some of the stencil, but mostly we're going to be painting. So starting off, you got to start off light again. So just to give the white paper a little bit of tone. And just spraying it off. I've cleaned the plate, but it's not perfect, but that's okay. Remember those little incidentals just add, and incidents, just add a little bit of interest. So put some muscle into it. This layer is quite thin. And so it's picked up a little bit of what was on the plate initially, which is fine. It's all good. Okay, now we just need the cat. And checking out our... Now we have to turn it this way this time because the cat's facing this way. We're going to be slightly off registration for the background, but that's okay. Okay, so you can see, you know, because we had to turn it, that we're slightly off registration here. So this is something we can just paint in. And I'm just going to put some basic color out. Black, we'll do a black and white cat. A little bit of yellow for the eyes. This is going to be far more realistic because we're actually painting it in a sense. And we have that taupe as for the color of the cat, so a little bit of pink. We'll use some alizarin crimson, and I'll put some white out. And we're also going to be putting out some medium. Right, some thinner, just so it lasts longer. That's our medium. So not too much. I will wet my brush. And just blocking in the cat. Now, I can follow this outline fairly closely. And don't forget, this is the painterly part of the print. So nice brush strokes. Now it seems to be very dry in the studio this morning, so I might have to let it dry and then do a release coat. And if you want to correct, just another little brush, and you can wipe any areas that you want to adjust. Nice part about painting with a water-based paint. Okay, so now we're at the eye part. And I might just adjust that with a little bit of white. Now the angle is the photograph that was taken of him that's turned this way a bit more, so that one eye seems to be smaller than the other. That's just a perspective problem. It's not a straight-on view, is what I'm saying. All right. So, back to our black. We'll put the eyes in. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit. He was probably outside in the sunlight, so his pupils are smaller. That's a nice thing about painting, is you can adjust things as you go. Do your own thing. And let's give him some tufty areas around the nose here. A little bit of shadow underneath here. Make sure we have everything covered. Again, if you want to adjust, fade out the shadow color a little bit, you can just take a brush and, sort of like watercolor, you can just wipe it away a little bit. Okay, so I've replaced this border, and I've taken the picture out. It's more annoying than useful. And we will just continue to paint. I think that eye needs a bit of an adjustment. We're just going to outline outline the nose a little bit more. And a little pause. take some off here. There's a little bit of a gap between the two paws, so we can adjust that. And just scrub that out. Could have a nice shadow underneath. Maybe we'll put some blue out. I've given him a little more of a startled look, which is fine. I think it's part of the character, isn't it? So we'll add a little bit of shadow tone. And I think the rest of this lying on straw or something. And in that case, we'll add more of this. And maybe a little bit of this. I'm trying to keep my palette coordinated between all the different pieces, so we're running a series, which is a nice thing for anybody to do. Taking it down a bit. I had a bit of black in the brush, was just fine. And just taking the color down a bit so it's more straw-like. There we go. And we just block that in. The nice about this painterly business is you have all these interesting brush strokes. And you can do one of two things. You can either print as you go, which is a good way to do it, or you can wait and then do it all in one go by putting a release color on top. So I think we're going to have to do a release color because the rest of it is dried. And we're just going to pump up the yellow eyes a little bit. Now eyes usually have eyelids and they tend to cast a shadow, so what you do is you put a little shadow tone just here over the top. Not easy to do because as you put something in, it takes something off at the same time. But anyway, okay. So let's worry about the nose a little bit. So a little bit of alizarin crimson. And that orange. Just a little bit more color. Cute little pink nose. Okay, about ready to put the background. And it's probably just grass and leaves and things, so it could be, we'll just use our blue, a little bit of the yellow. It'll give us a nice green. And just a touch of the red, just to take it down a touch. If you put a complement in with your color, it just moves it towards a gray. A neutral. So you can add maybe touches of yellow here and there. Maybe there's some highlights. All up to you. Just play with this. Have fun with it. As usual, we'll be posting all the imagery at the end, so you can paint along with me if you like. And some dark notes here and there. Grasses. You could use stencils at this point. No end of stuff you can do. And I'm just going to pump up the foreground straw a little bit. More yellow. And some of it can, you know, overlap the cat. It's all good. And you don't have to worry about your edges because you have that stencil in the way. And a little bit more of this. Just for maybe a few little seed pods, whatever. It's just interesting. Now we're going to pump up the white on the cat so that it's not going to be pure white, but a little bit of negative painting here. And his paws are white. There's a little white spot on the side, but we'll probably darken that down because it's more in shade. Okay, looking at the cat here, there's a bit of white over here. Just coordinating that. Okay, so then I had mixed up some gray here, and we're just going to create sort of a shadowy effect. I'm going to print this because it's still wet, so we'll see. We won't get much of the background. Well, it's coming along. So now if we do the release, I think then we'll get the rest of it. Okay, so we just have to wait for the white part to dry because I can't put a release on until we get that done. Well, you know, you can always grab something to drink while I'm doing this. It's a beautiful day out there, hoping to get outside and maybe get some footage. And lots of snow. We're past the really, really, really cold weather. No, minus, what was it, minus 33 it got down to? But can't complain, it's been a beautiful winter, actually pretty mild for the most part. If it's still cool, then it's still wet, but feels pretty good. So I think we're just going to use white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the border back, so it doesn't matter that we're going to run white over all of it. We're just going to have to work really fast and furious. Now these Amsterdam paints are specifically good for releasing layers. I haven't found the golden open ones to do exactly the same kind of job. Okay, I'm just going to place it and hope for the best. Watch your edges. Okay. Are your fingers and toes crossed? This may be a total disaster, but it was major fun anyway. And of course, you can touch it up with, you know, touches of paint, Posca pens, whatever. You know, it's never a waste. Okay, coming up. And it did what it was supposed to do. There we go. Now I might darken the eyes a little bit more, but everything else is pretty good. And there's your painterly print. We can do that right now, actually. Just ever so slightly, because the rest of it is fairly muted. So there we go. And maybe a little bit more here on the nose. And you can little claw areas. Just do the watercolor trick by just moving that over. And you can just print it, and then whatever you touched up just looks printed, so it's all good. There. Anyway, you can go on like this forever. So there's your painterly print. And sorry about the noise, Josh. We'll have to edit that out. Anyway, yeah, and so much fun. I hope you'll try this. It's one way to get, you know, like a painting out of it. Have fun working with it, and we'll see you again another time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and especially like, you know, our Shoreline Studio site so that you can be entered to win the free cat print. So take care and bye for now.